The PlayStation Store is running its extended play sale right now, and while I highlighted the other sale, the game's under $15 sale, I have not highlighted this sale in depth. Now, the gimmick of this sale is a little strange. It's something I haven't seen before. It's essentially games with the DLC included, hence the term extended play, extending your playtime in games. Nevertheless, there are some good deals available. I want to go through them quickly. A lot of repeats, however, some really good deals on top of that, some new ones. So let's just get right into it, and I want to start things off with arguably the best deal I saw that's on sale as a part of this one. XCOM 2 Collection is 75% off for $25. Now, this might actually be a new low for this game. Regardless, XCOM 2 is a fantastic game. Ideally, you do want to play a game like this on PC based on its tactics nature. However, it works relatively well on the PlayStation 4, and this is the version of XCOM 2 you want to buy. Yes, you can get the base game and it's a little bit cheaper. However, you are not getting anywhere near the amount of content that the collection has. The collection has XCOM 2 and the DLC, most notably War of the Chosen. That adds extensive new content in the fight against Advent when additional resistance factions form in order to eliminate the alien threat on Earth in response to a new enemy known as the Chosen emerges with one goal: recapture the commander. XCOM 2 fundamentally is a really good game, and it's a game that you can play with a variety of different playstyles. If you want to go super hardcore and rank up the difficulty, yeah, it's a game that's incredibly thrilling and incredibly engaging, but you can play at easier difficulties as well, and you can still have a really good time with all of the customization options and things like that. $25 I think is a really good buy, so definitely would give that a shout. Next up, this is a deal I often see, but it's so good that whenever it does go on sale, I have to give it a mention. Assassin's Creed Odyssey Gold Edition, 75% off for $25 is ridiculous. You guys are probably aware you get AC Odyssey, the base game. You get the Season Pass, which does extend your playtime in that game with a couple DLC packs and 2 new story arcs, and then you also get Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered, which is a game that Ubisoft actually released standalone for $40, and it does come with AC Liberation, but AC Liberation is pretty terrible. Assassin's Creed 3, on the other hand, is relatively good. Obviously, it's of the olden Assassin's Creed style. That's definitely more so up my alley. AC Odyssey, though, obviously, if I objectively assess the game, outside of my personal bias against these new style Assassin's Creed game, Odyssey is a well-made game. Was not a fan of things like the double XP boost and it being relatively grindy. Apparently they're fixing that with AC Valhalla, so hopefully that'll be more up my alley. Nevertheless, Odyssey for $25 is pretty good. Alright, you want a game that you can sink an obscene amount of hours into? Diablo 3 Eternal Collection is the game to pick up. It is 67% off for $19.79. And yeah, it's Diablo 3. Diablo 3, even as its base form, you can spend a lot of hours into it, but then you throw in the Eternal Collection and you have Rise of the Necromancer and Reaper of Souls and all the expansions. This game is one that you can sink so many hours into, and yes, we know that Diablo 4 is coming, but it's going to be a long time before that drops. Diablo 3 still holds up very, very well, and it works really well on consoles as well. This is one game that the PC to console transition initially I thought would be a little bit difficult, but they did a pretty stellar job of porting Diablo 3 to the PlayStation 4, initially PlayStation 3, and it's definitely worth a look if you do want a game you can sink a ridiculous amount of time into. Alright, next up, here's a pretty good bundle. The Far Cry 4 and Far Cry Primal Bundle is down to $20, so essentially $10 a piece for both of the games. I think that's pretty good. Far Cry Primal has held up in price for quite a while, and Far Cry 4, same thing. Usually digitally they're a bit more expensive than $10, but both games for $20 I think is pretty good. Now, Far Cry Primal, when that came out, a lot of people expected it to completely reinvent the Far Cry formula and it being a lot different, and yes, the setting is wildly different, but if you actually assess the game fundamentally from a gameplay standpoint, it's still very much a Far Cry game at heart, and you can really see that come through mechanically. That's not a bad thing. You don't need to fix what isn't broken, and Far Cry has always worked rather well, and Primal with a different setting does add a new flavor to it. Nevertheless, both games for $20 I think is a pretty good buy, and definitely something I would give a look to. Next up, another open world title, Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor Game of the Year Edition is down to just $6. This is really good. Shadow of Mordor to a lot of people was the first truly great game of this generation of consoles. It was a great title, an open world action-oriented title. The combat was very reminiscent of something like a Batman Arkham title, and then the open world was relatively big with a lot of extra content to do. The Game of the Year Edition obviously adds a lot of extra stuff. You got more missions, more challenges, more skins, more runes, more warband missions as well. All of that rounds out for a pretty compelling open world adventure, and at just $6, it's a really good buy. Shadow of War is also on sale. It's a little bit more expensive. I think the definitive edition was like $18. If you've never played either game, start off with Shadow of Mordor. You'll probably like it enough where you'll want to pick up Shadow of War as well. But with PSN running sales every other day, it seems like that game will be on sale again very, very quickly, so you can wait a little bit on that one. play Mordor for now, and then you can jump on that later. Alright, Red Dead Redemption 2 Special Edition is 55% off to $36. This is a really good buy. RDR2 I think is a great game. I know some people didn't enjoy it as much as RDR1. I think objectively speaking, if you assess the game side by side, RDR2 has to be the better game just on the basis that it released 8.5 years later. The visuals are so much better, and yes, I loved RDR1, and if you look at the game relevant to the other games out at the time, maybe RDR1 was a better game. I mean, that game was tremendous, but I really enjoyed RDR2 as well. Take out the online component because that's not very good. The single-player story is so good. And yes, there were a couple of pacing issues here and there. The beginning of the game is a little bit slow, but ultimately I do think it becomes a very, very compelling open-world adventure. The Special Edition also delivers a huge selection of exclusive content for story mode, bank robbery mission, and gang hideout, dappled back thoroughbred, and a couple of other in-game items as well, so you can check that out. Is it worth the extra $6 versus when RDR2 typically goes on sale? It's $30 for the base game. Maybe not, but again, in-game content is a little nice. And plus, you get free access to additional weapons in story mode. $36 for RDR2 is a really good buy, so definitely do check that out if you're one of the 4 people that have yet to. Alright, next up, we have a game that I always go to bat for, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition, 70% off for $14.99. Now, this is the price that Witcher 3 Complete Edition often goes for, and I don't think we're ever going to get to a point where it's a little bit cheaper. I don't know, maybe in a few years we will, but $15 for The Witcher 3 is just so ridiculously insane that really, I think CD Projekt Red can get away with pricing the Complete Edition at $15 for a very long time. Of course, this includes the base Witcher 3 game, and then you also have Hearts of Stone, Blood and Wine, and those expansions are nothing to scoff at. A lot of the times, we'll look at definitive editions and special editions that say, oh, it includes the DLC as well. Well, what does that mean? Is the DLC good? Is the DLC bad? In the case of The Witcher 3, it's good, and it's a very, very large amount of content. Hearts of Stone, 10 to 15 hours of gameplay. Blood and Wine, 25 to 30 hours of gameplay. So you're talking about extending the experience quite a bit, and the base game is already so good. Oftentimes when I talk about The Witcher 3, I tout it to be the best single-player game, or the best example of what a single-player game should be, just because it excels at just about every element. The story, obviously, from a narrative standpoint, it's strong. The elements like the presentation with the voice acting and music are so good. The gameplay is solid with a little bit of tactics behind it. Great characters. I can go on and on, great visuals as well. How could I be remiss to not mention that? But again, I can go on and on about the excellence of The Witcher 3. Most of you guys have probably already played it, but if not, really do yourself a favor and pick up the Complete Edition, as it's a tremendous game. Alright, next up we have a Watch Dogs 2 Deluxe Edition, 75% off for $15. I think this is pretty good. Watch Dogs 2 is a game that I'm also very, very big on. I often compare it to Assassin's Creed 2, and Watch Dogs 2 did for Watch Dogs what AC2 did to Assassin's Creed. Unfortunately, Watch Dogs 2 didn't really resonate at that level from a commercial standpoint. I don't really know why. Obviously, I think from a story standpoint, it is a little bit more lighthearted and things of that nature. Watch Dogs 1 was a super serious game. Watch Dogs 2 has its serious tonality elements, but it's also at the same time maybe a little bit more quote-unquote fun of a storyline than Watch Dogs 1. Whatever the case may be, I think it's a rather good game, and $15 is a really good buy for it, and Watch Dogs Legion is, of course, coming up, so now is not a bad time to refamiliarize yourself with Watch Dogs. Next up, we have Resident Evil 7 Biohazard Gold Edition, 60% off for $19.99. This is really good. RE7 is the Resident Evil game that really brought Resident Evil back to the forefront. I know a lot of people look at Resident Evil 2 Remake, and yeah, the RE2 Remake was absolutely phenomenal, and it was a great game, but RE7 was really good as well. A new cast of characters, bringing back that element of horror that people were missing from Resident Evil, especially with RE4, 5, and 6. I loved RE4, but that game was the one that really took it more to an action-oriented route, and then RE5 and 6 really extrapolated that even more so. RE7, on the other hand, a little bit more of that horror element, I should say a lot more so, and it's really good in that sense. You get a lot of extra downloadable content in this version as well. The version of the game contains the same content as the Deluxe Edition. The additional content included is the same as the Season Pass content, so do be mindful of that. $20 for it is pretty good. And lastly, I want to give a shout out to Warhammer 40k Inquisitor Martyr. This is down to $9.99. Initially, maybe at its full price point, it wasn't worth it, but at this price, man, this is a pretty good hack-and-slash action RPG. Even if you're not the biggest fan of Warhammer, if you just judge it fundamentally as an action RPG, it's pretty good, and at $9.99 I think it's a really good buy. If you want something a little bit on the cheaper side but still has a lot of content, this is definitely one to give a look to. And that's going to conclude this video. Again, the extended play sale has a lot of great deals. XCOM 2 Collection, definitely a standout. Diablo 3, can't go wrong with that. Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor Game of the Year Edition. RDR2, Witcher 3, some really good stuff. But that's going to conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.